Welcome to Taiwan Report News Brief, news and analysis from Taiwan. I'm Donovan Smith. Up today on the show, Ke Wen-je has been cleared of organ trafficking, government issues guidelines for events, Taiwan is tops in Asia for gender equality, and will the KMT drop the 1992 consensus? Also, stick around to the end of the show because we have an important announcement to make. But up first in the Taipei Times is an article or a story I could only describe as unusual. Speaker complains of police inaction over threats. This is the legislative speaker, Yeo Shi-kwon, and he is being threatened. So reading from the Taipei Times, the former premier said that the first threat was issued on February 18th through a Facebook message, which was followed by a letter mailed to him the next day. The letter, signed by a person named Yeo Guixiang, says it is a, quote, request for Yeo Shi-kwon and his family to take up responsibility for the pain and sorrow of the Lin family murders. For this, I will transfer 20,000 NT to Yeo so he can buy airline tickets to leave Taiwan right now. The writer was referring to the February 28, 1980 murders of Lin's mother and 7-year-old twin daughters who were stabbed to death at their home. Lin's eldest daughter was also severely wounded. Now this, I'm going to jump in here, this is just plain weird. Now, Yeo Shi-kwon was a very close aide of him at the time, so maybe this is where this is coming from, but they're both at the time Dang Wai, or outside of the party, and later formed the DPP. So this is essentially blaming him for murdering his friend. Now, the Transitional Justice Commission has basically suggested they think that there was either the KMT or something KMT related or the security forces may have been involved, although they did not have any hard proof. But the president has asked the National Security Bureau to release records. So we may find out. But this is a very bizarre accusation. All right, jumping back to the article. The Bureau said that Yeo's aides on February 21st filed a police complaint, and they worked swiftly to arrest a suspect that night, later identified as an 88-year-old retired soldier residing in Taoyuan. Taoyuan prosecutors said Yeo faces criminal charges, but he denied issuing threats, saying he wrote the letter because Yeo is not loyal to the Republic of China and should leave the country. However, Yeo said he received another threatening letter on Monday from the same person, together with a bank receipt for a wire transfer of 20,000 NT. Yeo said his office contacted the National Police Agency and was told to, quote, just return the receipt to the sender. Yeo told reporters he went public about the police's handling of the matter because although the suspect was questioned by police, he still sent a letter with the receipt. Quote, it is clear that the suspect is not backing off despite being questioned by police, he said. It was an open threat through Facebook and the letter, Yeo said. I understand the suspect has an organization backing him, which has channels linked to China. That is why I'm very much concerned for my family's personal safety, he added. Yeo also complained of inaction by Taipei police, saying the police patrol box next to his residence is empty, implying that officers did not patrol the neighborhood nor check the box. Afterward, Minister of the Interior, Xu Guoyong, visited Yeo's office to apologize in person. And he said, I did not receive the NPA report about the legislative speaker receiving a letter of threat a second time. These are units under my ministry's responsibility, so I have to apologize. Okay, so we've got an 88-year-old retired soldier accusing this legislative speaker, Yeo Shi-kwon, of murdering his friend's family, which is weird. Then he goes on to send threatening letters and 20,000 NT for him to flee the country. I guess with 20,000 NT, you could get to Hong Kong or Okinawa or Japan or something. But that's a weird way to threaten somebody. I get out of the country and here's some money to go, which is just odd. Then we've got Yoshi Kwon claiming that the guy has an organization backing him, which has channels linked to China. Now, I have no idea. It doesn't say what proof he has of that or what the organization is or anything else. What's really bizarre about this is, of course, if that information is coming from the National Police Agency, one would think they may have been more alarmed. So apparently, my suspicion here is that they did not think that there's an organization backing him, but that's just speculation on my part. Okay, to the Taiwan news. Organ harvesting charges against Taipei mayor dismissed. Taipei Mayor Ko Wen-je will not be prosecuted for being involved in the China organ harvesting trade, Taipei District Prosecutor's Office determined on Friday. This has been a smear campaign against Ko Wen-je for quite some time. He, of course, originally was a medical professional, and he was involved in organ transplants. That is true. However, there was a U.S. author, Ethan Gutman's book from 2014, The Slaughter, Mass Killings, Organ Harvesting, and China's Secret Solution to Its Dissident Problem. And he testified in October 2018 suggesting Ko was a middleman. Now, again, no proof has ever come forth that that's actually true. Now over to Focus Taiwan, just some updates on the COVID-19 situation. The headline is Taiwan announces new COVID-19 case, total up to 45. That pretty much explains that. Taipei Times, virus outbreak, COVID-19 not yet at peak, Taiwan under control, minister says. Now, the peak here is the global spread of COVID-19 has likely not peaked, although the situation in Taiwan is under control, said the Minister of Health and Welfare. So that essentially means that they think things are fine here in Taiwan, but outside of Taiwan need to be concerned. So the headline's a little misleading. Continuing with the Taipei Times, guidelines issued for large events. So the CDC yesterday published guidelines for hosting large events amid the rise in COVID-19 cases worldwide. The agency said there have been warning signs of community infections in Taiwan, cluster cases involving families and hospitals, and local infections now outnumber imported cases, with the sources of infection in several cases remaining unknown. The guidelines define large events as those attended by at least 1,000 people, including graduation ceremonies, festivals, sports events, and religious, political, cultural, academic, and non-governmental organizations events. The guidelines include 6 risk factors for assessment whether the organizer can secure the travel histories of the participants, ventilation at the venue, whether at least 1 meter of separation can be maintained between participants, whether there are fixed seats, the duration of the event, and if hand disinfection is available, and the masks should be worn. Now, I don't think that hand disinfection is exactly what they meant. That's a typo. Presumably, that's hand disinfectant. So organizers can consult local health bureaus or other authorities for an assessment, the guidelines say. If an assessment finds an event to be high risk, organizers should postpone or cancel it or host it in another form, they say. Now over to Radio Taiwan International. Children's centers close, sports leagues ban spectators. So they're shutting down children's play areas, things like that. Here's the big news. Taiwan's Professional Baseball League has pushed back the opening of its upcoming season to March 28, a 2-week delay. The league has announced limits on interaction between players and fans, no autographs, handshakes, or pictures. It says it will cancel the season altogether if the Government requires it to. Meanwhile, Taiwan's Pro Basketball League is banning spectators from its games. Fans will only be able to catch the latest matches on TV. Moving on to the Taipei Times again. Taiwan first in Asia for gender equality based on UN data. Taiwan ranks first in Asia for gender equality based on data from the UN's Gender Inequality Index, the Ministry of Economic Affairs said yesterday. Although the nation is not included in the latest Gender Inequality Index from the UN, based on its statistics, if it was included, Taiwan would rank first in Asia for 2018, ahead of South Korea, Singapore, and Japan. Worldwide, it would rank ninth, falling behind top gender-equal nations such as Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, and the Netherlands. Now, of course, while that's good news, it's worth pointing out that not everything is exactly perfect. Now, they include at the end of the article here, now this is an online job bank survey, and they're a little dodgy because these are generally people just looking for jobs, which is a very narrow segment of the population at any given point. However, it does have two useful reminders. The survey also showed that about 62.2% of women have experienced gender discrimination while pursuing employment. Furthermore, 65.6% of women have said they experienced wage gaps throughout their careers, as they are paid 6,591 NT less on average than their male colleagues, the job bank said. All right. Now, the KMT, there's an article today, but unfortunately it's behind a paywall. But it's by Catherine Hill at the Financial Times. So I can't really show it to you here. But essentially what she's talking about is that both of the two main candidates have effectively said that they're going to can the 92 consensus. Now, this is important because if the 92 consensus is dropped, then they need to come up with some kind of new formula. But this is getting blowback here, so I'll start with that. As it says here in the Taipei Times, this is a quote here from former KMT chairwoman Hong Xiu-zhu in her press release. And former Taipei Mayor Hao Longbin and KMT legislator Johnny Chang, who represents the party's younger generation, are deliberately avoiding or obfuscating the issue about cross-strait relations, is what she said. Now, she, to make this clear, is deep, deep blue. She was running for president back in 2016, and her opinions on the issue were far ahead of even the mainstream of the KMT on potential unification with China. And finally, the KMT replaced her as their candidate midway through the campaign. Now, she's not the only one who is upset. Sun Yat-sen's school president, Jiang Yazhong, urged party members not to vote in the by-election, saying that Hao's and Chang's comments on cross-strait relations seemed to favor severing ties with China. Now, to be clear, both of them have essentially blamed the Chinese side, the PRC side, when Xi Jinping explicitly tied the 92 consensus to the one country, two systems found in Hong Kong, and that they want to apply to Taiwan, which of course made it toxic. Now, they have both said things along the lines of unless the PRC recognizes the existence of the ROC, then there's not really anything to talk about. Now, that's not going to happen. The 1992 consensus, according to the Chinese Communist Party, has always been one China. The KMT version of it, which the CCP has never accepted, is one China, but both sides with their own interpretations. Now, the article in the Financial Times, it was fine. Take a look at it. But both of them have talked about dropping the 1992 consensus because it's deeply, deeply unpopular. Now, I have an article up here tooting my own horn, I wrote this article, and it came out on February 4th. It's in Ketagalan Media, and it's called An Impossible Choice, the KMT's China Policy. It's worth a read because whoever wins the KMT chair race, which when you're listening to this, it may be ongoing. It's Saturday, March 7th. So they're going to have to wrestle with this. They will almost certainly try and come up with some kind of new formulation to replace the 92 consensus. However, the PRC has already come out and slammed any change to the 92 consensus, saying that it is sticking with that. So the PRC has already come out full guns blazing against the idea. Now, the KMT also, the reason why they want to drop the 92 consensus is because it's deeply unpopular, and they've lost 2 elections in a row on the national level by landslides, because the DPP now owns the center on the issue of sovereignty. So, if they want to appeal to the voters, they need to drop the 92 consensus. To appeal to China, they're going to have to come up with something that is either the 92 consensus or something that is similarly vague, that the PRC side will accept, which is iffy. They will probably only accept something if it implies that Taiwan is a part of China, which will offend the voters. Now, it gets worse. So not only does whoever the new KMT chair is have to navigate trying to come up with something that will appease both the PRC and the voters, who are very adamant right now about Taiwan's sovereignty and not wanting to be part of China. Those are not the only 2 major players. Then inside the KMT, there are a whole lot of people who have a very deep blue view on this and do believe there's one China and Taiwan is part of China, which the broad public disagrees with. It gets worse. The KMT is hemorrhaging cash at a massive scale. If they decide that they want to go with the voters and stand up for Taiwan's sovereignty against the PRC, and that will appeal more to the voters. However, the Taishang, the Taiwanese-based business people, are big donors, and a lot of them get subsidies from the Chinese state, some of which may or may not be being funneled into the KMT. So, if they offend the PRC, and by extension, the Taishang business people, and their own membership, their funding dries up, and they go broke, which they're already doing, but this means they have no hope of not going broke. So they have to now balance between the voters and survival. If they decide to stick with the PRC side, keep the money rolling, then the party dies because the voters are not going to vote for them. So either way, they're caught between a rock and a hard place. It's an interesting article to check out, and Michael Turton and I will probably be talking about it on Current Affairs Taiwan this week. All right, something worth checking out. In Taiwan Insight, there's a long article here. Can migrant workers purchase face masks with their photo IDs? It's an interesting read, if you're interested in that. And then once again, I'm going to toot our own horn. This is an article written about us, the inside scoop on Taiwan politics. Now, this is on Writer Shelf, and the particular author of it is Formosa File. Anyway, it goes on a little bit about our various shows, and anyway, it makes us look good. Be sure to check it out. All right, and then finally, our big announcement here. We are now putting all of our various podcasts into one place. And this is, I'll show you the URL. It is anchor.fm/Taiwan Report. So this is where you'll find all of our shows. You'll find this, the Taiwan Report News Brief. You'll find Current Affairs Taiwan. You'll find Taiwan Context. and more news shows that are going to be coming out soon, including Taiwan history and Taiwan stories. Remember, you can also find our shows on report.tw, the main Taiwan Report website. All right, be sure to tune in tomorrow. The big KMT chair race should be done by the next show. So that will be very interesting. We'll talk about that a little bit. So tune in next time.
哎呦，就是那个台湾狗啦，最喜欢我的台湾狗了。